Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. The truth is, people rarely betray you out of nowhere. There are always signs, subtle behaviors, tiny red flags we ignore because we want to believe the best. But if someone consistently does these things, you shouldn't just be careful, you should walk away. Let's get into it. 1. They lie about small things. One of the most underestimated warning signs in any relationship is small, casual dishonesty. Not the dramatic lies, not the obvious betrayals, but the tiny distortions that seem too harmless to matter. The kind of lies people brush off with. It's not a big deal, but it is, because small lies are rarely about the information being hidden, they're about the character being revealed. When someone lies about insignificant details, they are showing you something deeper than the lie itself. They are showing you their relationship with truth. And for some people, truth is flexible. You might notice it in simple moments. They say they were stuck in traffic, but later mention they stopped somewhere else. They claim they forgot to reply, yet you saw them active online. They exaggerate stories to make themselves look better. They deny saying something you clearly remember. Each incident alone feels minor, easy to forgive, easy to rationalize. But trust is not destroyed by one massive explosion. It erodes slowly, like water wearing down stone. Small lies are rehearsal. They train a person to prioritize comfort over honesty. They normalize distortion. They make deception feel routine. And over time, this creates a dangerous pattern. You can no longer distinguish when they're being genuine. What makes small lies especially concerning is that they often serve no real purpose. There's no serious consequence to telling the truth. No major conflict being avoided. No protection of privacy or safety. So why lie? Often it comes down to image management. Some people lie to appear more impressive, to avoid minor embarrassment, to escape accountability for tiny mistakes, to control how others perceive them. But when someone consistently chooses a false version of reality over a harmless truth, it signals insecurity mixed with manipulation. Because if a person cannot tolerate being honest about small imperfections, they will struggle to be honest when the stakes are high. And this creates a quiet instability in your connection. You begin to question details, you replay conversations, you wonder whether you misunderstood something, not because you are paranoid, but because inconsistency forces your brain to search for coherence. Trust, at its core, is psychological safety. It is the ability to relax in someone's presence without constantly analyzing their words. It is the confidence that what you hear aligns with reality. Small lies disrupt that safety. They introduce doubt into ordinary interactions. They create micro moments of confusion. They force you into detective mode inside relationships that should feel natural. Another important layer is respect. Honesty communicates, I value you enough to be real with you. Repeated small lies communicate, I value convenience more than transparency. And people who lie casually often assume others won't notice or won't confront them. This assumption itself is revealing. It suggests they are comfortable operating in subtle dishonesty because they believe accountability is unlikely. But here's the deeper truth. Trustworthy people feel uncomfortable lying, even when it would be easy. They correct themselves. They clarify details. They admit when they forgot, failed, or changed their mind. Not because they are perfect, but because authenticity matters to them more than image. On the other hand, chronic small liars prioritize smooth appearances over accurate reality. And that difference becomes critical over time, because major betrayals rarely begin as major. They begin as patterns that went unchallenged. The person who hides tiny facts today may hide significant truths tomorrow. The person who rewrites small events may rewrite major ones later. The person who avoids accountability in harmless moments will avoid it when consequences are real. This doesn't mean every small lie makes someone untrustworthy forever. People lie out of fear, habit, or social conditioning. Growth is possible. Change is real. But the key is pattern and response. Do they acknowledge it when confronted? Do they correct themselves voluntarily? Do they show discomfort with dishonesty? Or do they minimize, deflect, and continue? Because trust is not built on perfection, it is built on integrity. And integrity is revealed most clearly in moments where honesty is easy, but still chosen. So when someone repeatedly lies about small things, don't just evaluate the content of the lie. Pay attention to what it represents. A pattern of convenience over truth, image over authenticity, avoidance over accountability. And remember, if someone cannot be trusted with small truths, trusting them with big ones becomes a gamble. 2. They never take responsibility. One of the clearest signs you cannot fully trust someone is their inability to take responsibility for their own actions. Not occasionally, not during a particularly stressful moment, but consistently, because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone misjudges situations, says the wrong thing, forgets commitments, or hurts someone unintentionally. Mistakes are human. Avoiding responsibility for them is a character pattern. You'll recognize this person by the way every negative outcome somehow originates outside of them. If they lose a job, the boss was unfair. If a relationship ends, the partner was toxic. If a project fails, teammates were incompetent. If they hurt you, you were too sensitive. There is always a reason, always an explanation, always a justification, but rarely, if ever, ownership. At first, this can sound convincing. After all, life is complicated. People do get mistreated. Circumstances can be unfair, but patterns tell the real story. When someone is perpetually blameless in their own narrative, you're not witnessing exceptional misfortune. You're witnessing externalization. Externalization is the habit of projecting responsibility outward to protect one's self-image, and while this may preserve their ego, it destroys relational trust, because trust depends on accountability. Without accountability, problems cannot be resolved, conflicts cannot be repaired, growth cannot occur. Imagine trying to build something with a person who cannot admit mistakes. Every disagreement becomes a debate. Every hurt becomes invalidated. Every issue becomes unsolvable. You're left carrying emotional labor alone, analyzing problems, initiating conversations, offering compromises while they remain defensive and unmoved. Over time, this creates exhaustion, not just because problems exist, but because solutions feel impossible. People who never take responsibility often use predictable defense mechanisms. Deflection is one of them. You raise a concern and suddenly the conversation shifts to something you did wrong months ago. Minimization is another. It wasn't that serious. You're overreacting. That's not what happened. Then there is justification. I only did that because you. If they hadn't done this, I wouldn't have. Notice the pattern. Behavior is always framed as a reaction, never a choice. But responsible individuals understand a fundamental truth. Circumstances influence behavior. They do not excuse it. Someone can be stressed and still apologize. Someone can be hurt and still communicate respectfully. Someone can be wronged and still act with integrity. Responsibility is not about accepting all blame. It's about acknowledging one's part, even if that part is small. And this willingness signals emotional maturity. It communicates, I value truth and growth more than protecting my pride. When that willingness is absent, trust begins to crack, because you realize something important. If this person hurts you, accountability is unlikely. If they break your trust, repair is uncertain. If conflict arises, resolution may never come. This unpredictability creates insecurity. You may hesitate to express concerns because past experiences taught you they will be dismissed. You may suppress feelings to avoid arguments that go nowhere. You may start questioning your own perceptions when they repeatedly deny fault. And this is where the damage deepens. Relationships without accountability often evolve into environments where one person adapts constantly while the other remains unchanged. The responsible partner becomes more patient, more forgiving, more accommodating. But accommodation without reciprocity becomes imbalance, and imbalance erodes respect. Another revealing aspect of responsibility avoidance is narrative consistency. Ask someone who avoids accountability about their past conflicts, and you'll often hear a series of stories where they were misunderstood, mistreated, or unlucky. Again and again, different people, different situations, same role, the innocent participant. But life rarely produces dozens of identical narratives unless perception itself is skewed. Self-awareness introduces nuance. People capable of responsibility say things like, I shouldn't have reacted that way. I misunderstood them. I handled that poorly. I wish I had done better. These statements don't diminish them. They strengthen trust because they signal honesty about imperfection. And paradoxically, admitting mistakes increases credibility. You feel safer with someone who can say, I was wrong, than with someone who insists they never are. Responsibility also determines growth trajectory. Mistakes acknowledged become lessons. Mistakes denied become patterns. A person who never takes responsibility is often stuck in repetition, encountering the same conflicts, frustrations, and relational breakdowns without meaningful change. Not because change is impossible, but because recognition is absent. And recognition is the first step of growth. It's also worth noting that responsibility avoidance can be subtle. It doesn't always appear as blatant denial. Sometimes it appears as partial acknowledgement paired with immediate justification. I'm sorry, but I get what you're saying, however. That happened, but you have to understand. The apology exists, but ownership dissolves. The effect is the same. Repair is incomplete. And incomplete repair weakens trust. Because trust is not built merely on good moments. It is built on how people handle bad ones. Anyone can be pleasant when things are easy. Character reveals itself when mistakes occur. Do they lean into accountability or retreat into defensiveness? Do they prioritize understanding or self-protection? Do they repair or rationalize? These responses shape relational safety more than any grand gestures ever could. This doesn't mean someone must accept blame unfairly. Healthy responsibility includes boundaries. It involves discerning one's role without absorbing what isn't theirs. But chronic avoidance is different. It's not boundary setting, it's accountability resistance. And over time, relationships with such individuals often feel like conversations with a mirror that only reflects outward. Nothing sticks, nothing lands, nothing changes. So when evaluating trust,
Watch how someone responds to mistakes. Not the magnitude of the mistake itself, but the response to it. Because errors are inevitable, ownership is optional, and people who consistently choose avoidance over ownership make trust fragile. Not because they intend harm, but because accountability is the mechanism through which trust is repaired. Without it, cracks accumulate, until eventually the foundation no longer holds.
3. They love bomb, then withdraw. There is a type of attention that feels almost unreal when you first experience it. You meet someone, and suddenly you feel deeply admired, understood, and prioritized. The messages are constant. The compliments are frequent. The connection feels fast and powerful. They text you all day. They remember every detail. They tell you how special you are. They talk about the future early. It feels exciting, because it is. This is often called love bombing, an overwhelming surge of affection and attention at the beginning of a connection. And the confusing part is that it doesn't feel negative at all. It feels validating, comforting, and rare. You may believe you've found someone emotionally open and deeply interested. But the issue isn't affection, it's speed and intensity without foundation. Healthy connection usually grows over time. It allows space for discovery, differences, and gradual trust. Love bombing compresses that timeline, creating emotional closeness before stability exists. You may start sharing personal things quickly. You may prioritize them sooner than expected. You may imagine a future together early, then something changes. The same person who felt intensely present becomes inconsistent. Replies slow down. Energy shifts. Plans become uncertain. You go from feeling chosen to feeling unsure. And this contrast creates confusion. Because you remember how attentive they were. You felt the warmth. You believed the connection was strong. So when distance appears, your mind searches for explanations. You may wonder if you did something wrong. You may replay conversations. You may try to restore the earlier dynamic. This is what makes the pattern powerful. The intense beginning establishes an emotional high. Withdrawal creates a loss. Occasional returns of warmth create hope. You're not just responding to the person, you're responding to the contrast. Another sign is idealization. During the intense phase, they may describe you in sweeping, almost exaggerated ways. You're perfect. I've never met anyone like you. You understand me completely. While flattering, these statements often emerge before they truly know you. They may be responding to a projection, the idea of you, rather than the full reality. Projections don't last. As normal differences and imperfections appear, emotional intensity can drop. And instead of adjusting naturally, the person withdraws. For you, this can feel personal. You experienced their enthusiasm and believed it reflected something real and stable. So when it fades, self-doubt can appear. You may try harder, initiate more, offer reassurance, but effort alone cannot stabilize a dynamic built on inconsistency. Trust depends on reliability, not intensity. It's also common for love bombing to include rapid vulnerability. They may share deep personal experiences early, encouraging you to do the same. This creates quick emotional closeness, but without time, vulnerability can become exposure rather than intimacy. When withdrawal follows, it can leave you feeling emotionally unsettled. Healthy connection typically feels less dramatic, but more predictable. Communication remains relatively steady. Interest doesn't swing dramatically. Closeness deepens alongside understanding. You feel calm more often than confused. This doesn't mean someone who love bombs is always manipulative.
Some people genuinely feel strong early emotions, but struggle with consistency or fear of intimacy. However, trust is built on patterns, not intentions. Repeated cycles of intense closeness, followed by distance, create instability. You cannot relax into connection when emotional availability feels unpredictable. So when evaluating this behavior, look beyond the sweetness of the beginning. Ask yourself, does the connection feel steady over time? Is affection matched by reliability? Do you feel secure or uncertain most of the time? Because real connection isn't defined by how intensely it starts. It's defined by how consistently it stays. 4. They only show up when they need something. One of the quietest but most revealing red flags in relationships is conditional presence. It doesn't look dramatic. There's no clear conflict, no obvious betrayal. Instead, it shows up as a pattern you slowly begin to notice. You don't hear from them for long periods. Conversations fade. Plans never quite materialize. Your connection exists mostly in memory rather than ongoing experience. Then suddenly, they reappear. A message arrives. A call pops up. The tone is warm and familiar, but almost always there is a need attached. They need advice. They need help solving a problem. They need emotional comfort. They need a favor, information, access, or support. And once that need is satisfied, the connection gradually disappears again. At first, this can be difficult to label as problematic. Reaching out for help is normal. Relationships involve support, but healthy relationships are not activated only by necessity. They exist between needs. People check in without requests. They share updates without agenda. They laugh, talk, and connect simply because they value each other's presence. When someone appears primarily during moments of personal need, the relationship begins to feel functional rather than mutual. You are contacted when useful, not when missed. This realization often brings subtle emotional conflict, because when they reach out, it feels good. You feel remembered, important, included. But when silence returns, a quiet doubt follows. You may start rationalizing. They're probably busy. They have a lot going on. That's just their personality. And occasionally, their warmth during needy moments reinforces hope that the connection is deeper than it appears. But relationships are not defined by isolated moments. They are defined by patterns. Consistency communicates priority. If someone consistently engages only when they require something, it suggests the relationship occupies a utilitarian role in their life. You are part of their support system, but not necessarily their everyday emotional world. Over time, this can create imbalance. You answer quickly. You listen attentively. You offer solutions and reassurance. But when your own needs arise, their presence feels uncertain or limited. Messages may be delayed. Support may feel surface level. Initiative may disappear entirely. This imbalance often leads to quiet disappointment rather than overt conflict. You don't necessarily feel used, but you don't feel fully valued either. Another indicator is conversational structure. Interactions tend to orbit their circumstances, their challenges, their requests. Once the issue is resolved, the conversation tapers off. There is minimal curiosity about your life, your experiences, or your emotional state beyond what relates to their situation. You become a listener more than a participant. Trust, however, grows from mutual recognition. Feeling seen, feeling remembered, feeling included without needing to perform a role. People who value you relationally tend to maintain ordinary contact. A random message, a shared meme, a casual check-in, small gestures that signal, I thought of you even when I didn't need anything. Without these moments, connection can start to feel transactional, and transactional dynamics gradually affect emotional safety. Because you begin to wonder whether your value lies in who you are or in what you provide. It can also influence your behavior. You may feel pressure to remain helpful to sustain the connection. You may hesitate to set boundaries for fear that the relationship will disappear entirely. You may accept minimal engagement because occasional closeness feels meaningful. But healthy connection does not require usefulness to exist. It requires mutual willingness to remain present in each other's lives. A helpful exercise is observing initiative. If you stop reaching out, what happens? Does the connection naturally continue? Or does silence stretch indefinitely until the next moment of need? This observation can feel uncomfortable, but often clarifies relational reality. Relationships grounded in genuine mutual interest tend to sustain contact organically, even if frequency varies. Selective engagement, however, produces predictable cycles: silence, reappearance with request, interaction, silence again. Recognizing this pattern does not mean assigning negative intent. Some individuals struggle with relational maintenance. Others withdraw when stable and reach out only during difficulty. Emotional habits, attachment patterns, and life stress can all contribute. But trust is shaped by experience, not explanation. You can understand someone's limitations while still acknowledging how their behavior affects you. Awareness allows choice. You can offer support without overextending. You can adjust expectations without resentment. You can maintain kindness while protecting emotional balance. Ultimately, connection thrives on shared presence, not constant communication, but reciprocal engagement. Both people initiate. Both people remain visible. Both people show up beyond moments of need. So when someone consistently appears only when they require something, pay attention to how the relationship feels across time. Because the people who truly value you rarely wait until they need you to remind you that you matter.
5. They betray other people's secrets. One of the clearest signs someone may be untrustworthy is how they handle information that was never meant to be shared. Not your secrets. At least not yet. Other people's. You may be having a normal conversation when they suddenly reveal something clearly personal about someone else. Private struggles, sensitive conversations, embarrassing details shared in confidence. Sometimes they say it casually. Sometimes they frame it as concern. Sometimes they whisper, "Don't tell anyone I told you." And in that moment, it can feel like inclusion, like they trust you enough to let you in on something private. But what you're actually witnessing is a boundary being crossed. Trustworthiness isn't situational, it's behavioral. A person who repeatedly shares confidential information is showing you their comfort level with discretion, and that comfort level appears low. You might assume you're different. They wouldn't do that to me. They trust me more. But behavior patterns rarely operate on personal exceptions. If someone treats other people's private information as conversation material, you are not immune to eventually becoming the subject. Because the issue isn't whose secret it is, it's the person's relationship with confidentiality. People betray secrets for different reasons. Sometimes it creates a sense of importance. Sometimes it generates attention or emotional reactions. Sometimes it feels like a way to bond with others. But closeness built on exposing someone else's vulnerability is unstable. It quietly communicates that privacy is negotiable. Even if you are never directly affected, witnessing this pattern can change how safe you feel. You may start filtering what you share. You may hesitate before opening up. You may mentally categorize topics as safe or unsafe. This internal caution is informative. Trust allows relaxation. It allows you to speak without anticipating exposure. When someone regularly shares secrets that aren't theirs to tell, that relaxation becomes difficult. Another important sign is how casually disclosure happens. If private information is shared lightly or without hesitation, it suggests limited awareness of confidentiality boundaries. Trustworthy people tend to pause around private information. They generalize details, protect identities, or redirect conversations. Not because they are secretive, but because they respect ownership of personal stories. Everyone deserves control over what parts of their life become public. When someone removes that control, even subtly, it reflects disregard for relational boundaries. You may also notice phrases like, "I probably shouldn't say this," followed by saying it anyway. This signals awareness without restraint, and awareness alone does not protect trust. Betraying secrets also touches on empathy. Keeping someone's secret means protecting their vulnerability when they are not present. It reflects consideration for how exposure might affect them. When disclosure becomes habitual, it suggests that the moment of sharing is prioritized over the impact on the person being discussed. That imbalance can make you cautious. You may find yourself sharing less, opening up selectively, maintaining emotional compartments. This isn't overthinking, it's adaptive trust. Of course, occasional slips happen. People sometimes misjudge what is confidential. What matters is pattern and response. Do they show regret? Do they become more careful? Or does it continue casually? Patterns of repeated disclosure signal normalized boundary crossing, and normalized boundary crossing weakens relational safety. Ultimately, secrets represent vulnerability, offered under the expectation of protection. People who honor that expectation demonstrate reliability. Those who repeatedly violate it demonstrate risk. So when someone frequently reveals other people's private information, pay attention, because how a person protects or exposes others in their absence often tells you how safe your own vulnerability may be with them. 6. They rush intimacy. Intimacy is one of the most meaningful aspects of human connection. It involves emotional closeness, vulnerability, trust, shared experiences, and a gradual unfolding of who people truly are. Because intimacy is powerful, its natural pace is slow. It develops through time, consistency, shared moments, disagreements, repair, laughter, and ordinary experiences that gradually create safety. But some people attempt to bypass this process. They rush intimacy, and at first, this can feel flattering rather than concerning. You meet them, and very quickly, they want deep conversations, emotional closeness, and strong connection. They ask personal questions early, share vulnerable stories quickly, and encourage you to do the same. It can feel like rare chemistry. You may think, we just click, they're emotionally open. This feels different, but there is a difference between emotional openness and accelerated intimacy. Openness invites connection. Acceleration pressures connection. A person who rushes intimacy often creates an environment where depth appears before foundation exists. They may push for personal disclosures early. They may want constant communication. They may seek emotional reassurance quickly. They may talk about commitment, loyalty, or exclusivity prematurely. The connection feels intense before it feels stable, and intensity can be mistaken for depth. But depth is built on understanding. Understanding requires time. Rushing intimacy compresses the timeline of discovery. It encourages emotional exposure before relational safety has had a chance to form. You may find yourself sharing personal stories sooner than you normally would. You may feel subtly pressured to reciprocate vulnerability, to maintain the closeness they are creating. And while mutual vulnerability can be healthy, premature vulnerability can create imbalance because safety has not yet been established. This can leave you feeling emotionally exposed. Another sign of rushed intimacy is future orientation. They may talk about long-term plans, shared experiences, or relational milestones early in the connection. Trips together, meeting important people, serious commitment language. These conversations create emotional investment in a future that has not yet been grounded in present reality. The speed can feel exciting, but it also reduces space for evaluation. You may become attached before you have enough information to assess compatibility, character, or consistency. Rushing intimacy can also involve blurred boundaries. They may expect immediate availability, frequent communication, or rapid emotional closeness without respecting your pacing. If you slow down, they may appear disappointed, confused, or subtly distant. This creates pressure. You may feel responsible for maintaining closeness. You may override your natural pace to avoid losing connection. But intimacy that requires abandoning your comfort is not true intimacy. It is emotional acceleration. Another important aspect is emotional mirroring. People who rush intimacy often emphasize similarities early. You're just like me. We think the same way. I feel so understood by you. While genuine similarity exists in relationships, rapid declarations of deep alignment can sometimes reflect projection rather than understanding. They may be responding to how you make them feel rather than who you are in complexity. Projection creates quick closeness, but fragile stability. Because as differences inevitably appear, the intensity built on perceived sameness can weaken. This can lead to disappointment, withdrawal, or relational instability. For you, the experience can feel confusing. You may wonder how something that felt so close so quickly now feels uncertain. But closeness built rapidly often lacks resilience. Healthy intimacy includes pacing. It allows curiosity. It tolerates uncertainty. It respects boundaries. It unfolds alongside trust. It does not demand emotional exposure before safety exists. Rushing intimacy can also serve psychological needs. Some individuals fear abandonment, loneliness, or emotional distance. Accelerating closeness can feel like securing connection quickly. Others may be captivated by novelty and emotional intensity, mistaking early excitement for lasting compatibility. In some cases, rushing intimacy can be manipulative, creating attachment before inconsistencies become visible. Regardless of intent, the impact is similar. You are encouraged to invest emotionally before having sufficient evidence of stability. This creates vulnerability without adequate protection. You may ignore early concerns because emotional closeness already feels significant. You may rationalize discomfort because you don't want to disrupt the connection. But trust benefits from pacing. Time reveals consistency. Time reveals character. Time reveals how someone behaves beyond first impressions. Without time, you are navigating connection largely through feeling rather than observation. Another helpful indicator is your internal state. Do you feel calm and curious as the relationship develops? Or do you feel rushed, overwhelmed, or subtly pressured? Secure intimacy often feels grounding rather than urgent. It allows space to breathe, reflect, and choose. Urgency, by contrast, can create emotional momentum that outpaces clarity.
This doesn't mean fast connection is always unhealthy. Sometimes people genuinely bond quickly. What distinguishes healthy, rapid connection from rushed intimacy is respect for pacing. If closeness develops quickly, but slowing down is welcomed, boundaries are respected, and pressure is absent, the connection may remain healthy. But when slowing down creates tension, disappointment, or withdrawal, acceleration may be replacing authenticity. Ultimately, intimacy is not proven by speed. It is proven by safety. Safety to share gradually, safety to maintain boundaries, safety to observe before investing fully. So when someone consistently pushes for emotional closeness, vulnerability, or commitment faster than comfort allows, pay attention. Because real intimacy is not something that must be rushed to survive. It is something that deepens precisely because it is given time to grow.
7. They keep you isolated. Isolation rarely begins with obvious control. It doesn't start with, "Stop talking to your friends." It starts subtly. A comment here, a suggestion there, a planted doubt. They don't really support you. I don't think they like me. You've changed since you started hanging around them. At first, it may sound like concern, like protectiveness, like loyalty, but over time, a pattern emerges. Your circle gets smaller. You spend less time with friends. You call family less often. You cancel plans more frequently. And gradually, your world begins to revolve around one person. People who isolate others often do so indirectly. They may criticize your friend's character. They may question your family's intentions. They may create small conflicts that make gatherings uncomfortable. Eventually, it feels easier to avoid those interactions altogether. You may even begin defending the person who is isolating you. They just don't understand us. My friends are dramatic. My family is too judgmental. But when distance from others consistently benefits one person's influence, it's worth paying attention. Healthy relationships expand your life. They encourage friendships. They respect family bonds. They celebrate your independence. They do not compete with every other connection you have. Isolation is powerful because it shifts your emotional reference point. When you have multiple perspectives in your life, you can reality check situations. You can ask, does this seem normal? You can gain support and clarity. But when your access to outside voices shrinks, your perception becomes increasingly shaped by one person. That imbalance creates vulnerability. If conflict arises, you have fewer sounding boards. If doubts appear, you have less reassurance. If mistreatment occurs, you have fewer people to validate your experience. Isolation increases dependence, and dependence increases control. Another sign is subtle guilt. They may make you feel bad for spending time with others. You're choosing them over me. I guess I'm not important. I just wanted to spend time together. The message isn't direct prohibition, it's emotional pressure. Over time, you may begin adjusting your behavior to avoid conflict. You may prioritize their feelings over your own social needs. This gradual narrowing of connection can feel like loyalty, but loyalty should not require loneliness. It's important to recognize that wanting closeness is normal. Wanting quality time is healthy. The issue arises when closeness demands exclusivity, when one relationship begins replacing all others rather than coexisting with them. You may also notice that they position themselves as your primary or only source of support. They're the only one who really understands you. You don't need anyone else. While it can feel comforting to be deeply understood, no single person should become your entire emotional ecosystem. Diverse relationships create balance. Friends offer perspective. Family offers history. Colleagues offer different dynamics. Each connection strengthens your sense of self. Isolation weakens it. Over time, you may feel less like yourself. Your interests shrink. Your routines change. Your identity becomes increasingly tied to the relationship. And because the change is gradual, it can be difficult to detect until distance has already formed. Trustworthy partners and friends do not fear your independence. They don't feel threatened by your support system. They don't attempt to replace it. Instead, they encourage it. They want you supported, connected, and grounded. Isolation, by contrast, centralizes power. When one person becomes your primary emotional, social, and psychological reference point, their influence increases dramatically, and influence without balance can distort judgment. You may tolerate behavior you once wouldn't have. You may question your instincts. You may feel stuck because leaving would mean losing your only close connection. This is why isolation is such a significant red flag. It doesn't just limit your social life, it limits your perspective. Healthy connection allows space. Space to grow, space to maintain individuality, space to nurture other bonds. If someone consistently undermines, discourages, or interferes with your other relationships, pay attention to the pattern. Ask yourself, has my world expanded since knowing them, or contracted? Do I feel more connected overall, or more dependent on one person? Do I feel supported in maintaining my other relationships, or subtly pressured to distance from them? Because real love, real friendship, real partnership does not require isolation to survive. It thrives in openness, and anyone who truly cares about you will want your world to feel bigger, not smaller. 8. Your intuition feels off around them. There are moments when nothing appears wrong on the surface, yet something inside you refuses to settle. The conversation flows, they smile, they say all the right things, but your body remains slightly tense. You walk away from interactions, replaying details in your head, trying to understand why you feel unsettled, even though nothing obvious happened. This quiet discomfort is often your intuition attempting to communicate before your mind can fully explain why. Many people are conditioned to distrust this feeling because they believe trust must be based only on visible evidence. They wait for dramatic moments, a clear lie, an undeniable betrayal, or an open conflict before allowing themselves to question someone's reliability. But intuition doesn't function like logic. It does not present arguments or facts in neat order. Instead, it absorbs tone, facial expressions, timing, emotional shifts, and inconsistencies beneath conscious awareness. By the time you feel that subtle unease, your brain has already processed numerous signals that something may not align. Untrustworthy individuals often trigger this sensation without committing overt offenses. Their friendliness may feel performative rather than natural. Compliments can sound exaggerated or strategically placed. Their stories might contain minor contradictions that are easy to dismiss individually but uncomfortable collectively. You may sense that they are evaluating you rather than relating to you, observing your vulnerabilities, your reactions, and your boundaries. These micro-experiences accumulate, creating a persistent feeling that you are not fully safe or understood in their presence. Another factor behind this off feeling is emotional incongruence. What they express verbally does not match what you feel emotionally. They may claim to support you yet subtly minimize your achievements. They can present themselves as transparent while frequently deflecting direct questions. They might praise loyalty but gossip about others freely. This mismatch between words and emotional impact creates internal friction, and your nervous system detects it instantly, even when your thoughts attempt to rationalize it away. You might also notice that time spent around them feels energetically different. Conversations leave you drained instead of uplifted. You feel the need to monitor your words carefully, as if stepping on invisible landmines. Silence with them feels awkward rather than peaceful. There may be an underlying sense of performance, that you must play a role to maintain harmony rather than simply exist as yourself. This emotional fatigue is often a reflection of subtle relational instability. Social dynamics can further complicate your trust in intuition. If the person dismisses your concerns, labels you as overly sensitive, or uses humor to invalidate your perceptions, self-doubt can grow. Over time, you may start questioning your own emotional radar, convincing yourself that discomfort equals insecurity. This internal conflict can keep you in relationships longer than your instincts would naturally allow, because you feel obligated to justify your feelings with concrete proof. Trustworthy individuals tend to create emotional clarity rather than confusion. Even when misunderstandings occur, communication feels repairable and transparent. You rarely wonder where you stand with them. In contrast, untrustworthy people often generate ambiguity. Their intentions feel uncertain, their reactions unpredictable, and their emotional availability inconsistent. Instead of feeling anchored, you feel like you are constantly decoding hidden meanings. It is also essential to differentiate intuition from generalized anxiety. Anxiety tends to cast a wide net, producing fear across many relationships and situations. Intuition, however, is typically selective. It activates repeatedly around specific people or contexts. If your sense of unease consistently arises with the same individual, despite different circumstances, it is likely reflecting pattern recognition rather than irrational worry. Honoring intuition does not require immediate confrontation or drastic action. It can simply mean slowing the pace of emotional investment. You may choose to observe more, share less personal information, or reinforce boundaries while you gather clarity. Intuition is not a demand for reaction, it is an invitation for awareness. It encourages patience, discernment, and self-trust. Your intuition is built from lived experience, emotional intelligence, and subconscious observation. It is a protective mechanism designed to detect subtle threats to your psychological safety long before they become visible problems. When someone consistently leaves you feeling confused, guarded, or internally conflicted, despite outward normalcy, that emotional signal carries meaning. Never underestimate the quiet voice that whispers discomfort. In relationships, the earliest warning signs are rarely loud. They appear as hesitation, as overthinking, as unexplained tension, as a feeling you cannot easily articulate. Yet these signals often precede clearer patterns. Listening to them does not make you judgmental, it makes you attentive. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is believing your own emotional experience, even when you cannot fully explain it. Confusion is often information in disguise. And when your intuition repeatedly feels off around someone, it may not be asking you to prove anything, only to pay closer attention. 9. They twist your words. One of the clearest signs you cannot trust someone is when conversations with them feel like verbal traps. You speak with normal intentions, but somehow your words return to you distorted, exaggerated, or completely misrepresented. What began as a simple statement turns into an accusation, a disagreement, or a problem you never intended to create. Over time, this pattern leaves you feeling misunderstood, defensive, and hesitant to express yourself at all. People who twist your words often operate through subtle manipulation rather than obvious confrontation. Instead of responding to what you actually said, they reinterpret your message in a way that benefits their narrative. A gentle concern becomes criticism. A boundary becomes rejection. A preference becomes selfishness. By reframing your words negatively, they shift emotional responsibility onto you while avoiding accountability for their own reactions. This behavior creates a dynamic where you constantly feel the need to clarify yourself. Conversations become exhausting because you spend more time correcting misunderstandings than communicating ideas. You may notice yourself over-explaining, choosing words carefully, or rehearsing statements in advance to prevent distortion. When communication feels like walking through a minefield, trust naturally erodes. Sometimes this twisting happens through selective listening. They focus on one fragment of your statement while ignoring the context that gave it meaning. For example, you might express feeling overwhelmed, and they respond as if you blamed them entirely. You might share feedback, and they interpret it as a personal attack. By isolating pieces of your message, they reshape reality to support their emotional stance. In other cases, word twisting appears as exaggeration. Neutral comments are amplified into extreme positions you never held. Saying, "I need some time alone" becomes, "You don't care about me." Mentioning discomfort becomes, "You think I'm a terrible person." This exaggeration forces you into defensive mode, where your energy shifts from honest conversation to damage control. Another tactic is retrospective rewriting. After a conversation ends, they later recall events differently, insisting you said things you did not say or meant things you never implied. Because memory is imperfect, this can create confusion and self-doubt. You might question your recollection, wondering whether you truly communicated poorly. Over time, repeated distortion can weaken confidence in your own perception. Word twisting also functions as a power strategy. If they can control the narrative of conversations, they can control emotional outcomes. By positioning themselves as misunderstood or hurt, they redirect focus away from the original topic and toward their reaction. This allows them to avoid responsibility, derail discussions, or gain sympathy from others while you appear insensitive or problematic. The emotional consequence of this behavior is profound. You may begin to silence yourself to avoid conflict. Authentic expression feels risky because it can be weaponized later. Instead of feeling heard, you feel interpreted. Instead of connection, you experience tension. Healthy relationships create space for clarity. Manipulative ones create cycles of confusion. Trustworthy individuals seek understanding rather than ammunition. When misunderstandings occur, they ask questions, reflect back what they heard, and aim for mutual clarity. They do not assume the worst interpretation of your words, nor do they reshape them to win emotional leverage. Communication with them feels collaborative, not adversarial. If someone repeatedly twists your words, the most important response is awareness. You may choose to communicate more directly, summarize your intentions, or gently correct misinterpretations in real time. But beyond technique, the deeper recognition is that consistent distortion reflects relational instability, not personal communication failure.
You deserve conversations where your words are received with curiosity rather than suspicion, where meaning is explored rather than reconstructed, and where expression does not become evidence against you. When someone consistently turns your voice into a weapon, the issue is not how you speak, it is how they listen. Never trust a person who repeatedly rewrites your reality through language. In relationships, feeling understood is not a luxury, it is a foundation, and when that foundation is constantly reshaped without your consent, trust cannot stand.
10. They apologize without changing. Apologies are meant to repair trust, restore connection, and acknowledge harm. But when someone repeatedly apologizes without altering their behavior, the apology stops being accountability and becomes performance. The words sound right. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I didn't mean to hurt you. Yet the same actions continue, creating a cycle where forgiveness is requested, but growth never follows. At first, these apologies can feel sincere. Tone, emotion, and timing may convince you that the person understands the impact of their behavior. You may accept their words because you value the relationship or believe in their potential to improve. But over time, patterns reveal truth more clearly than promises. When identical situations keep reappearing, despite repeated apologies, the message shifts from regret to disregard. This dynamic often creates emotional confusion. You may struggle to reconcile their apparent remorse with their unchanged behavior. Part of you wants to believe the apology, while another part recognizes the repetition. This internal conflict can lead you to question your expectations, wondering if you are being too strict or unforgiving. In reality, expecting behavioral change after an apology is not unreasonable. It is the entire purpose of apologizing. Some individuals use apologies as emotional reset buttons. After harm occurs, a quick apology diffuses tension and prevents consequences without requiring reflection. Once the discomfort passes, behavior returns to normal because the apology served its immediate function, restoring access to the relationship. In this way, apologies become tools for maintaining comfort rather than catalysts for growth. You may also notice that these apologies focus more on ending the conflict than understanding the impact. They might be brief, vague, or generalized. Sorry for everything, without acknowledgement of specific actions. When apologies lack detail, they often lack insight. Without insight, meaningful change is unlikely, because the person has not truly processed what went wrong. Another sign is urgency. The person may push for quick forgiveness, emphasizing how bad they feel or how much they regret the situation. This shifts attention toward their emotions rather than your experience. The conversation becomes about relieving their guilt instead of addressing the behavior that caused harm. Once forgiveness is granted, accountability quietly disappears. Over time, repeated apology without change cycles can erode self-trust. You might start minimizing incidents, convincing yourself they are isolated, despite evidence of repetition. You may accept apologies faster to avoid conflict or emotional fatigue. Eventually, you adapt to disappointment rather than expecting consistency, which lowers relational standards without conscious awareness. Trustworthy individuals treat apologies as commitments, not conclusions. When they apologize, observable adjustments follow: altered communication, different decisions, or proactive efforts to prevent recurrence. Change may not be perfect or immediate, but intention is visible through action. The apology becomes the starting point of improvement rather than the end of discussion. It is also important to recognize that change requires discomfort, reflection, accountability, and behavioral shifts demand effort.
When someone repeatedly avoids that effort while continuing to apologize, it suggests they value emotional reassurance more than relational responsibility. Words alone cannot repair patterns that actions continue to reinforce. If you encounter this behavior, awareness becomes essential. Instead of evaluating sincerity solely through emotional tone, observe consistency over time. Ask yourself whether apologies are followed by different choices, increased mindfulness, or demonstrated understanding. Trust is built not by how convincingly someone says sorry, but by how differently they act afterward. You deserve apologies that carry weight, words supported by effort, recognition followed by growth, and regret translated into respect. When someone consistently apologizes, yet remains unchanged, they are not truly repairing harm, they are postponing it. Never trust apologies that exist only in language. In relationships, accountability is not measured by how often someone says sorry, but by how rarely they need to say it for the same reason again.
Trust is not a gift given lightly. It's earned through consistent words, actions, and respect. People who lie, manipulate, isolate, twist your words, or rush intimacy are sending clear signals about how much they value your presence and your boundaries. Recognizing these patterns is not about being paranoid, it's about protecting your emotional well-being. Surround yourself with those who show up consistently, honor your boundaries, and act with integrity, not just in moments of convenience, but in every interaction. Your time, energy, and trust are valuable. Don't hand them over to someone who treats them as optional. Pay attention to the red flags. Listen to your intuition. Respect yourself enough to walk away from those who repeatedly show you who they are, even if it's uncomfortable. Because real trust is rare, and it should never feel forced, fragile, or conditional. Choose wisely, protect your peace, and remember the people who truly deserve your trust will never make you question it.